Hey guys, today I come here to talk about the issues with Battle for Azeroth Moonkin. As a quick who am I, my name is Tettles. I currently raid in our Wrathian Knights, which is a World 40th guild on Hyjal. I participate in MDI number 2, and I'm the Wowhead guide writer for Balance Druid. So having played many hours on the Battle for Azeroth beta and having done raid testing, I want to come and talk about some huge issues I have with the current iteration of Moonkin going into Battle for Azeroth. So first, I want to say that I'm very happy with how the current iteration of Moonkin plays. It just has some very weird issues that have yet to be addressed. Okay, and then so the first thing is talent impactfulness. Here's a sim just as a diagram. What the sim shows is that the best single target damage choices, which are Force of Nature, Starlord, Stellar Flare, and Shooting Stars, versus no damage talents at all. All this is here to prove is that Balance with no talents only loses about 18% damage while specking 0 talents altogether. A couple issues arise with stuff like this. For one, the player has very little agency over making the right talent choices, meaning that it doesn't really matter what you end up taking. You'll also generally overpick burst damage talents or talents that allow you for more AoE, which will lock you into one talent selection a majority of the time. This talent selection is Twin Moons, Fury of Loon, Starlord, and Warrior of Loon. Those all fall into this category. You'll be locked into that talent choice very, very regularly. Twin Moons is very strong for multi-target, pretty competitive on single target as well. Fury of Loon allows for a lot of burst overall in addition to being super good on multi-target. Warrior of Loon allows for high bouts of mobility, burst DPS, best on 2 to 4 targets generally speaking. And then finally Starlord is best on 1 to 3 targets. Not super overly complicated to min-max. It does a lot of good damage. In addition to that, our base kit being so strong also makes us difficult to balance as a whole, as we fill the role of many damage profiles as well with very little regard to talent selection. For that reason, Moonkin is very, very, very strong in Mythic Plus, but hard to balance. Overall, this is good for the player base, but bad for the health of the class. So for the players, this will make you do more damage, generally speaking, be harder for the class to balance and be in a poor spot, and will generally allow you to perform well in Raid and Mythic Plus because the balancing of the class will be more so suited for Raid, which will propel the Mythic Plus balancing to be really, really, really strong for Moonkin players. But overall, this is not very healthy for the class itself. The next topic to address is our multi-target and how it's designed. The largest issue that has yet to been addressed is Lunar Shrapnel and its prominence on AoE. This trait is beyond broken, and it clearly outscales all the rest of the traits. It makes your Starfall deal an additional amount of damage to all nearby enemies when they are afflicted by your Moonfire while within your Starfall. This means that there's exponential damage scaling on this trait, as every target adds more and more damage to the targets of the group, as opposed to just something that would add damage to 1 or 2 more targets. In its current iteration, this trait adds about 25% damage per trait. Just for a point of reference, most traits add about 2 to 4% per trait, so this is concerning for a multitude of reasons. First off, this grossly overvalues Balance Multi-Target. Currently, without Lunar Shrapnel, Balance Multi-Target is relatively mediocre as a whole. So Lunar Shrapnel is really crutching the community's perspective and like the raid testing's perspective and everybody's perspective of how good Balance AoE actually will be. In addition to this, Lunar Shrapnel is actually so overpowered that it's worth starfalling on 2 targets when used. Currently, Blizzard seems like they're moving away from AoEing on 3 targets and more AoEing on 2 targets. Lunar Shrapnel changes this. You begin starfalling on 2 targets because of how strong Lunar Shrapnel is. And then Balance Multi-Target is generally very strong. However, the power of it is no longer inside of Starfall. Instead, the power of it's inside of this broken Azerite trait, and I'm very concerned that Lunar Shrapnel will receive like a 60, 70, 80% nerf, and no compensation will come towards Starfall or the base kit of Moonkin at all. I would really enjoy to see like a nerf to Lunar Shrapnel in the form of a damage cap or some sort, or like maybe even deleting of the trait itself. A nerf to the point where Blizzard does not see this as integral to our AoE rotation, and instead will buff Starfall by a significant margin to compensate to make us more of a playable class on AoE, and not to worry about, hey, we're going to nerf Lunar Shrapnel by itself, but now Moonkin is adversely affected because now we don't really have a lot of AoE. So even though Blizzard is pushing AoE to be used on 3 targets, Moonkin using Star Surge on 2 targets also feels incredibly awkward, as we are a single resource builder spender class. Starfall as an ability feels incredibly lackluster in its current state. It needs buffing, while Lunar Shrapnel really needs heavy, heavy, heavy nerfs in order to make the class health more stable moving forward. Now moving on to the last topic, Balance feels like a turret to some regard on single targets, especially compared to that of Legion. So what that means is Balance really can only move inside of globals and instant cast abilities such as Moonfire, Sunfire, and Star Surge on single target. And with the significantly lower amounts of astral power you're generating overall, it is really, really hard to cast these Star Surges, meaning that you have significantly less amount of instant casts. It also forces you to play around Warrior Balloon pretty heavily, which is now being used as more of a cooldown for mobility as opposed to a damage cooldown. It makes you lose a fair amount of damage by having to pull your Warrior Balloon procs, and it creates an immobile class while trying to do maximum damage. Compared to many of the ranged alternatives, Balance is in a really sore spot in regards to its movement while casting department, making it significantly more difficult to optimize the damage output of a Balance Druid. All in all, most of the classes are a pretty good spot. Balance really just feels pretty immobile. I would have liked to have seen a different change. Maybe on that tier 30 row where they added Tiger's Dash, maybe they could have added something that would have helped our mobility while casting. I don't really know what could have changed, but Balance's mobility while trying to cast on single target is now pretty lackluster as a whole. So overall, I really am happy with the playstyle of Battle for Azeroth Balance Druid, and it feels very, very smooth and very good to play. I believe Moonkin will be pretty viable moving into BFA and one of the top classes overall. I'm personally going to continue playing it, and I love the class. If you'd like to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to leave my Discord, Twitch, and Patreon in the description, so check me out there. I hope this video was informative and helps all people understand Moonkin a little bit more, what you're going to get out of Battle for Azeroth. Yeah, so thanks and have a great day, guys.